Hey everybody, on this week's edition of My Favorite Cuffs in Off the Cuff, or My Favorite Off the Cuff Cuffs. My Off the Cuff Cuffs. My Favorite Off the Cuff Cuffs. Right. Well, anyway, what we're going to do is we're going to look at one of my favorite off the cuff cuffs, the ERs. Okay, now, these are the Enigmatic ERs. And they're enigmatic and they're amazing because, first of all, the controversy surrounding their name. Now, there is no possible way that I could explain in this video, or any video for that matter, the story of the ER cuffs and the ER story itself, as well as the research that was done by the experts, and you can find it on handcuffs.org. Okay, they did an amazing amount of research. There's a national registry, maybe it's worldwide. I think it is worldwide. There's a registry anyway, in an ongoing effort to create a list of the different types of ERs that have survived all these years. Now, the story of them is very famous because they were the cuffs and leg irons that were on John Brown, the abolitionist in the 1850s, and when he was hung. And if you look it up, you can find out what happened to those actual cuffs. I don't have them, but boy do I wish I did. Now, throughout this video, I'm going to just refer to them as ER cuffs. Okay, why? Because if you looked up the source material that I told you to on handcuffs.org, you'll know that there are many different spellings of his name. For a while, it was thought his name was Elijah Rickards, Eli Richards, Elia Rickards, all kinds of different variations of the basic same name. Now, I think I can shed a little light on that because I live in central Pennsylvania, as you may know, and it is pretty much Amish country, okay? And some families spell their names differently, even though it's the same family. For example, this name, Stoltzfus, is sometimes spelled this way and sometimes spelled this way. Other names like Herman are sometimes spelled this way with one N and sometimes this way with two N's. See, in the Pennsylvania Dutch culture, there's a lot of instances where people change the spelling of their names in the same family. And there's different reasons for this. You can actually see evidence of this sometimes in family Bibles, where the person, or in letters, where people spell their own names different ways in the same letter. Now, why did they spell their names differently? Well, sometimes one person would be illiterate and they would be getting help filling out some sort of official form, and the person writing would just write down their interpretation of how that name should be spelled. Other times, in their culture, sometimes they do something called shunning, where if somebody steps over the line, they just cut them off from the rest of the community. And sometimes people change the spelling of their name if somebody in their family did something that they don't agree with. Okay, sometimes, if somebody gets sent to jail or whatever, they might change the spelling from one way to another to avoid the shame of having the same last name. If you're a fan of The Office, just look up anything that Dwight Schrute ever said about his family name and how that changed over the years. So in that time period, and we're talking, the early 19th century, a lot of people did have name changes, and it was a pretty common thing. Now, the reason these are among my favorite cuffs is because they were something I always wanted to get. Every collector wants to get a pair of ERs. And you see pictures of them in other people's collections and your mouth just waters. And in my case, this is one of those instances where you want something forever, and when you get the first example of it, all of a sudden others fall into your lap. At a local auction house, I was lucky enough one time I couldn't go to the actual auction. I had to leave absentee bids or do a phone bid thing, and it was making me nervous. But I saw these in the picture, and from the angle, it looked like they were repros. But I said, you know what, I'm going to go to the preview and check it out myself. And when I did, I knew immediately they were ERs, not just because they're marked, but I mean, there's no mistaking them. And the cool thing is this giant center link. So anyway, long story short, I was lucky enough to get these, and you can see the full story in one of my earlier videos. And they're perfectly in perfect working order, except one of the sides, the threaded inside bolt, is broken off about halfway. Now, luckily, the key that came with them is long enough to reach that bolt, and they're still fully operational. I could eventually get that fixed, but I kind of wanted to keep them in the same shape that I got them. And the coolest part is this giant center link. Now, when I got them, I didn't realize that these might be unique in that regard, okay? And I was more than excited, as you can fully imagine. And then things started to get weird, because not long after I got those leg irons, I got my first pair of ER cuffs. Okay, and I did say first pair, because I did have another pair as well. Now, the other pair, I went to another auction over in Virginia, and I actually was bidding against some people from that area that wanted it for their own reasons, for historical, but, you know, I gave them my website and all that, and things worked out. But I did win those cuffs. Now, there was a problem with them, so I did trade them, and in addition to other things, I know I talk a lot about trades, but, you know, I did trade a few things with John, and they were one of the things that were instrumental in getting me the Houdini padlocks. But anyway, I already had another pair, and these are in great working order. They're fantastic. Everything is smooth. You can see them in the other video. But it was so weird that not long after I got my first pair of ER handcuffs, I got a second pair. So that's why I was willing to trade them. Plus, they needed work, which I was totally not qualified to do. Now, in the meantime, I started finding ER padlocks everywhere. And in fact, this one, with all the remnants of, the most remnants of plating, of nickel plating, this one was actually locked around the center linkage of a pair of Providence Tool Company cuffs that I got that have a lot of plating still on them. And when I bought them at an antique shop, the guy said, I'm sorry, there's a padlock that I don't have a key for, so I'm just gonna throw that in. And it was this ER padlock, which was amazing. Now, I have different size padlocks, of course, and these things pop up. You know, I actually did sell a few of them because I keep finding them everywhere. But recently, the prices that I've seen at local sales, there's not enough reason for me, you know, there's no leeway. I wouldn't make anything by buying it and then reselling it or trading it to someone for anything. So, you know, unless I see one of these things for dirt cheap, I pretty much stay away from them. And the cool thing is that these are exactly the same bulbous construction as the handcuffs and the leg irons. So again, I don't know if it's my proximity to where these things were originally manufactured that is the reason why I was lucky enough to stumble on so many examples, and I'm not going to question it, but it's been years since I found any. And I do know where there's a couple of padlocks for sale, but like I said, they're in the $300 range, which, you know, I just don't need them. I have other examples. If there was the handcuffs for that price, sure, I would get them, but until then, you just gotta keep hunting, and that's all you can do. Okay, everybody, well, I hope you enjoyed this video, and stick around because I'm going to be showing close-ups of the cuffs with measurements. I took someone's great advice and started putting tape measures in the close-up section of the videos, so, you know, that way you get a better idea of size of everything. So anyway, thanks again for watching, and we will see you again next time.